Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you had a good weekend. We're here in week 7 or 8. I'm not really sure at this point. But we're here and we're gonna tackle this week. We're almost done. Don't forget that it's Teachers Week and Nurses Week. Told ya. That was Sammy. She says hi. But no, really, we are almost done, and she couldn't have said it better. We are almost done, and just like I always say in class, you never want to finish the race, or sorry, you never want to stop before the race is finished. So I just want you guys to finish this week strong, or finish this year strong. Everything that you've worked for is still worth it. It's not time to give up. We're in this together. This week, we're going to be working on our Unit 5 study guide, which is going to be assigned today, and you will be doing that today, and it will be due on Friday, and then I will assign a project to you on Wednesday, and it will be due May 15th. So what you're focused on right now is the Unit 5 study guide. You should be able to find it in the assignments tab on Teams, also on my website. So if you don't know what my website is, it is dcsmscience6.weebly.com. Here is the blank Unit 5 study guide. And then what's due remotely this week? Today, the study guide. And then Wednesday, you'll get the Cell City project. Remember, all of your work that I assign is due on Fridays by 4 p.m. If it's not turned in on time, it will not get graded on time with the rest of the assignments. So if you're turning in assignments late, your grades are also going to be posted late because I grade all at the same time. So just keep that in mind. You should be turning your work in on time on Fridays by 4 p.m. Okay, so you should have downloaded the study guide. If you don't know how to do that, all you need to do is click it. And then the awesome thing is that it's a Microsoft Word document, so you can either choose to print it or you can choose to write on it. So you will just hit Enable Editing. Make sure that you'll save it and put your name on it, and then you can just type in it like a normal document. Just for the purpose of this, I've done it in Adobe Acrobat, but you can still do it in Microsoft Word, just like I showed you. So make sure to put your name up at the top so that I know it's you, because some of your emails are weird, like you all, and I just need to find a way to identify who you are. So the first part is cell theory. We didn't talk about that one yet, but cell theory was designed by some German scientists named Schlieben, Schwann, and Virchow, and they essentially looked at all living things and understood that they were comprised of cells, and came up with these 3 principles that kind of outline that principle. So we've got cell theory. The first step or first principle is that all living things are made of 1 or more cells. And that makes sense because our characteristics of life say that cells are organized into either multi or unicellular organisms. Our second aspect of cell theory is that the cell is the smallest unit of life. So some of you may have heard about like atoms, and that they make up everything, but atoms make up matter, and matter is not alive. So yes, atoms are the smallest unit of matter, so like solids, liquids, and gases, but the smallest unit of living things is the cell. And then the third aspect of cell theory is that all cells are made of old or pre-existing cells. So what that means is that all cells divide and come from another cell. So they just don't come out of thin air. They come from another cell. And if you remember when we watched the One Strange Rock with Will Smith, they talked about Luca, which was what they believed to be the first cell. So every living thing came from another cell. They don't just come from midair. They all come from another cell. So all of the cells in our body, they divide and multiply. So divide meaning they split, and then multiply meaning they grow into more cells, so that we can become a bigger organism. And as the characteristics of life say, one of the characteristics is that we grow and develop. Now, the next step is we need to understand that cells, like we said, are the smallest unit of life, but then cells come together and make up tissues. I'm not talking about Kleenexes. I'm talking about like tissues in our, like our skin is an organ. It's actually called our epidermis, but it's made of several tissues, several layers. Those tissues come together and make up an organ, and then organs come together and make up an organ system. So essentially, let's look at my respiratory system. I've got my lungs, I've got my my trachea, I have all those are organs, but together, all of my respiratory organs, which we'll learn more about next unit, they come together and make up an organ system, a bunch of organs that work together to accomplish a job. All of those, that organ system is made up of individual organs. Those organs are made up of tissues, and then those tissues are made up of cells. So if you think about them like Legos, a cell would be like one Lego, a tissue would be like 4 Legos, an organ would be like 10 Legos, and an organ system would be a bunch of the 10 Lego organs put together, working together to create something that accomplishes a specific task. Similar cells can form different kinds of structure. So this is a true or false question. This is true, and I want to explain what this means. If let's think about my heart. My heart is a muscle, just like my bicep, right? They are similar cells. They're both muscle cells, but they perform different jobs. So what I'm going to say it's true, and my example is my heart is a muscle, like my brain is a muscle, right? Your tongue is actually a muscle. So my heart is a muscle, just like my bicep in my arm. So they are similar structures. They are the same. They are similar in terms of the way that they are structured, but they perform different functions. So they are, well, I'll say similar cells. They are similar cells, but they perform different functions and have create different structures. So let me explain this a little bit more. So I have cells that are similar in terms of what they do. So that would be like I said, my heart is a muscle, my bicep is a muscle. There's the type of cell is similar, but they perform different functions. So their job is different. My heart doesn't do the same thing that my arm muscles do, and they also look different. My heart looks different than my arm muscles. So they are similar types of cells, but they are different structures. So they look anatomically different. Here we are in terms of talking about reproduction, which is a characteristic of life. Organisms of the same species have the ability to produce fertile offspring. So what that means is like, I can't have, like a dog and a cat can't reproduce. They're not the same species. So you have to be the same species to be able to produce fertile offspring. And that's that's just because of the structures and the way that we're built. How are organisms classified as eukarya different from archaea and bacteria? We talked about this a little bit. Remember, we talked about eu and new. So remember, eukarya, remember it rhymes with new because it has a nucleus. Whereas archaea and bacteria are prokaryotes. These are prokaryotes. And remember, pro and no rhyme because it has no nucleus. So eukarya have a nucleus, eu and new rhyme, meaning like they have a nucleus, whereas pro and no rhyme because they have no nucleus. So that's how they differ. These two are prokaryotes, and eukarya is a eukaryote, meaning it has a nucleus. Homeostasis. Remember the word homeostasis, if you break it down, homeo means same. And stasis means status. So when we put those together, it means the same status. And really means the same inside status. So it essentially means when the body's ability or an organism's ability to keep a stable internal condition, so inside of our bodies, when outside or external conditions change. And this happens like when we sweat. So when we sweat, it's our body's way of saying that we're too hot. So it produces sweat so that it can cool us down. Just like it's like our body's way of dumping a cooler on us. Or shivering. So when we're cold, our body moves more to create like to help our body temperature rise. So these are ways that we maintain homeostasis to control our body temperature. So even though external outside conditions are changing, like the temperature may change, our body reacts to maintain a stable internal temperature of 98.6, which is normal. So why is cell division important? Again, these are some things we haven't gone over in depth because of our situation, but if you have questions about these, I want you to come to tutoring. So cell division, first of all, cell division is when a cell makes a new cell. And like we said earlier, all cells come from old cells. So it's super important, cell division is super important because of reproduction. Remember, a characteristic of life is that we need the ability to reproduce. And that's why we talked about how viruses, some people say the viruses aren't alive because they can't reproduce on their own without a host. So reproduction is important as an important characteristic of life. And remember, according to cell theory, all cells come from pre-existing cells. So without reproduction, or without cell division, there would be no life. No life! Definitely important. All right, our 6 characteristics of life. We have talked about this a lot. So you should definitely understand these. Our first one is organization of cells. And this is whether it's unicellular or multicellular? Is it made up of one cell or more than one cell? Does it have a nucleus? Is it a eukaryote, you and new, or a prokaryote, no, pro and no? So does it have a nucleus or does it not? Is it unicellular or multicellular? Our second characteristic of life is growth and development. So all living things need to be able to grow in size and develop in skill. So this is like the growth in size, but then changes within an organism's lifetime. Reproduction, as we just talked about. So this is like cell division. Response to stimuli. Do you remember when when we were in class, and then if you fell asleep, I told you I would bang the that bell in your ear and you would pee just a little bit? That's your response to stimuli. If you didn't wake up, it would indicate that you are not alive. So your response to stimuli or response to your environment is showing me that you are adapting and that you are alive. If you can't adapt or respond to your environment, I'm worried about it. Number 5, maintaining homeostasis, which we just talked about. So this consists of body waste, body temperature, etc. So maintaining stable inside conditions, even though the outside may change. And then number 6 is the ability to obtain and use energy. So this is like food or fuel. Remember, food/chemical potential energy. All right, so this next part that we're going to talk about, so far we have the majority of it done. This next part, this is going to be really important for your cell C project, which I will introduce to you on Wednesday. So the cell membrane, this is like a gate. It allows things in and out of a cell. So this would be like a gate or toll booth in your city, because it lets things in the cell or out of the cell. Remember, we don't want, or a front door, we don't want things in the cell that will harm us, just like you're not going to let somebody who is harmful inside of your house. A cell wall, which is in plant cells only, that's what helps them keep super rigid. Remember I said plants can't dance because they're super structured. They've got this extra wall that animal cells don't have. This protects the cell and provides structure for plants. And I'm specifying that it's only plants because animals do not have them. So this would be something like a fence or border wall. Like if you have a fence at your house, it is very sturdy. It provides structure to your yard and to your city if it's a border wall, to make sure that it's protected, right? And it gives the city shape. Mitochondria. This is the powerhouse of the cell, or the power source for the cell. This is where it gets its energy. By breaking down sugar to make ATP. So this would be would be your power plant, or your coffee shop, because if you're like me, you get your energy from coffee. Or a battery, something like that. So this is where we get our power from. A lysosome recycles waste in a cell, recycles waste in a cell. So this would be like the garbage man. Oops. Or a recycling plant. we said that in order to maintain homeostasis, living things have to be able to get rid of waste. So this allows for the cell to get rid of all byproducts, all waste. Just like when we go to the bathroom, cells are living things too, and they need to get rid of all their waste. The vacuole, the large central vacuole, is in plant cells only. This stores water and food. And this could be like the grocery store, because that's where we get our water and our food, right? Or like a water tower in a city. You know how the cities have those. I'll show you guys more about that on Wednesday when I introduce this project. But this, we get all of our food and our water from a grocery store, just like a plant is going to get all of their stored water from a grocery store, or the idea that it stores, like store. Get it? A vesicle, remember this sounds like the word vehicle. This transports our protein. And remember, all of these are on your cell organelle notes from last week too. So here you have it in 2 places. This transports proteins around the cell. So this would be like your mailman, depending on whatever your Golgi apparatus is, Uber Eats, pizza delivery. So I'll explain more about that. But if your if you say the vesicle is like the mailman, then the Golgi apparatus would be like the post office, because the Golgi apparatus packages and distributes proteins. So like I said, this could be the post office. It could be like a factory, or well, it could be like Amazon. It packages and distributes the proteins to the vesicles so that they can drive them around and deliver. Chloroplasts are like the idea of chloro, that's chlorophyll in plants, gives them their green color. So chloroplast, and if you remember my song, it says running around with chloroplast, running up a high bill, taking sunlight showers. Chloroplasts use sunlight to make food or energy for plants using photosynthesis. So remember, this is only for plants. So this would be like a garden, because that, gardens produce chemical potential energy, or it could be a solar panel, because it uses sunlight to make power. So the idea is that a chloroplast uses sunlight to make energy, just like a garden uses sunlight to grow food, which is energy, and a solar panel uses sunlight to make energy as well. The nucleus, this directs all cell activity and stores genetic information. So in Cell City, I've had some people say that this was like the government, or the and then the DNA, like it holds genetic information, and genetic information is DNA. So the DNA would be like, the library, because that's where all of our important information is found. Or it could be like the mayor, who holds all the important information for a city. The ribosomes build proteins. So the idea of the ribosome, if you said that your Golgi apparatus was a post office, then the people who build the packages, this could be like a factory, like a mail factory, the people who build everything, or it could be a construction site, or a construction worker, sorry, because they're the actual workers that do the building, or it could be a chef, because they're the one who are building the food. Whereas the rough endoplasmic reticulum This is where the proteins are made. So if you said, this would be a factory worker, sorry. So if you said the ribosome was a factory worker, then the rough endoplasmic reticulum would be the factory itself. If you said it was a construction worker, the one who actually builds the proteins, then where do the construction workers work? A construction site. And if you said it was a chef, was the one who made proteins, then your rough endoplasmic reticulum would be where a chef works, and that is a restaurant. You have to be able to make these connections to understand what these things do, because it's not easy to remember things like smooth endoplasmic reticulum. You got to always relate it to something that you know to make sense of something that you don't know. Our smooth endoplasmic reticulum removes toxins. Removes toxins, and it's smooth. It's not covered in ribosomes, whereas rough is covered in ribosomes, so it has like a bumpy appearance. So the smooth has no ribosomes, and I actually like to think of this as like, remember we said smooth operator? If you never heard that song, you need to look it up. But the idea is that it is an ER, like a hospital, because it removes bad stuff. So it could be a hospital, or it could be like a police officer. That gets rid of all the bad stuff in a cell. Our cytoplasm, cyto means cell, and plasm means like liquid. So this is like the liquid inside of a cell. In our song, it says, "Don't worry, plasm has them," which is talking about all the organelles inside of a cell. It keeps them in place, but also allows them to move around. I highly suggest that you listen to the song and let it get stuck in your head, because you will learn without even trying. This is the fluid inside of a cell. It holds some organelles in place. Some move around like the vesicles, but some need to stay in place. So it holds some in place and allows others to move. So in your cell city, this could be like a sidewalk, because it allows some things to move, or it could be like a lake, because it's fluid inside of a city. So whichever way you want to think about it, as long as you explain it in the project, you'll be fine, and I'll explain that more on Wednesday. The cytoskeleton, remember cyto means cell, and we know that a skeleton gives structure. So both plant and animal cells have cytoplasm and cytoskeleton. This is the skeleton, or the shape of the cell. Like without our skeleton, we would just be like blobs. So our skeleton, our bones give us shape and allows us to move. So in a city, this could be like the road, because it allows things to move around, just like the roads give us the opportunity to move about the city. This part is super important for your project. Again, I'll explain that on Wednesday. It's a big project, so it's super important, a great way to bring your grade up or keep your grade high. And our last part is understanding the difference between plant and animal cells. So plant cells have a couple organelles that animal cells don't have. They have chloroplasts. They have a large central vacuole. And they have a cell wall. Other than that, they share everything else. So plant and animal cells they both have a nucleus. They both have rough and smooth ER. They both have cytoplasm. And this is important for your project too, because you have to include all these components. They both have cytoskeleton. They both have ribosomes, are workers that make the proteins. They both have a Golgi apparatus, which package the proteins. They both have vesicles, which deliver the proteins. They both have a cell membrane, which allows things in and out of a cell. They both have mitochondria, which creates energy. And they both have lysosomes, which gets rid of waste. So you should have a completed Unit 5 study guide. This is due Friday at 4. Remember, there's a couple places you can find it. It's on my website on the homepage. Also, if you go to the 3 lines, it's under coursework. And we're on Unit 5. Almost done Unit 5, almost done with the year. Here's another blank copy. And then here is, like, you know, if we were doing this in class with my pictures, which I know helps some of you, and it's highlighted with color-coded green for plants. So you can do it either way, but this needs to be turned in on time. This needs to be turned on time in Teams. So if you don't know how to turn things in on Teams, you're gonna go to the Teams section. You're gonna go to the assignments section in your Teams page. And this one isn't in here yet, but let's, for example, do the cell organelle notes. Your page looks like this. And you there's a button that says add work. So you should be able to add work to that page to send it to me. If you have any questions, let me know. Tutoring is Tuesdays at 3 and Thursdays at 9. I will see you guys then. Have a great day. It is a choice.